I think my favorite part about speaking at events is not what happens on stage, though that's really fun, but when I get the chance to have conversations with people after the session, especially when someone has a specific question about applying storytelling in their life or work. Now, this happened just the other day, and the question was one I thought you might find valuable. The gentleman I was chatting with is a leader in his organization. He manages a large team and is responsible for communicating with them in a clear and compelling way to really connect with them. His question was, how could he use stories to relate to the younger members of his team, members he sometimes struggles to connect with? First of all, he was correct in his suspicion that storytelling could help in this scenario. And he was also correct in thinking that there must be a way to do it right. The key in this situation is not to focus on what you don't have in common, but rather what you do. To choose situations that, despite your age difference, you have both likely encountered. For example, if you have seen me speak, you may have heard me tell a story about high school physics class. Now, I tell that story for several reasons. One, because it illustrates the point I want to make about the power of storytelling. That reason is the obvious one. The not so obvious reason I tell that story is I know that despite the wide variety of audiences and people in those audiences that I speak to, and despite all the things that we may or may not have in common, or our age differences, for example, it is likely that at some point, the majority of my audience sat in a classroom. It is likely that they had to hand in a paper or were worried about a grade. And as a result, through that story, I am able to establish common ground. So, think about your teams and the people you are in charge of leading. Don't think about what you don't have in common. Instead, focus on what you do. What experiences have you likely both shared in some form or another? Perhaps it's playing sports as a kid, or perhaps it's a family vacation gone wrong. Perhaps if your audience is a little bit more narrow, like maybe the finance department, and you know that all of them have had to sit through an econ class, you could tell a story about that. The reality is, as humans, we actually have a lot more in common than we don't. It might mean taking a trip down memory lane in order to find that common ground, but those are the kinds of stories that can bridge any gap, age or otherwise.